Peppers. They seem simple enough, right? You plant them, water them, hope for the best. Maybe, just maybe, you get a handful of peppers by the end of summer. But what if everything you thought you knew about growing peppers was actually holding you back? Today, we'll talk about a gardener with over 20 years of pepper growing experience. Someone who has made every mistake in the books so you don't have to. He's going to walk you through 7 powerful steps that completely change the way he grows peppers. Along the way, he's going to knock down some of the most stubborn myths in the gardening world, myths that are quietly ruining harvests in backyards all across the country. By the end of this video, you'll have everything you need to grow the most productive, most loaded pepper plants you've ever seen, from spring all the way until frost takes down. Welcome back to Lost Natural Remedies, the channel where we dig into the kind of knowledge that used to be passed down around kitchen tables and garden fences. Knowledge that's slowly being forgotten in a world of convenience and shortcuts. If this is your first time here, you're in the right place. Real food, real methods, real results. Now let's get into today's video. Now let's start from the beginning. Step 1. Transplanting and fertilizing. The very first thing that separates struggling pepper plants from thriving ones comes down to what happens at the moment of transplanting. Most gardeners just dig a hole, drop the plant in, pat the dirt down, and call it a day. That's exactly why most gardeners end up disappointed. The right approach is to treat that planting hole like a meal. Before the pepper plant ever goes in the ground, the soil needs to be loaded with slow-release organic fertilizers. Nutrients that are going to quietly feed that plant week after week as they slowly break down. The gardener in today's video uses what he calls his master blend. It's a mix he's refined over years of trial and error. He combines 3 to 4 parts of an organic all-purpose fertilizer, 1 to 2 parts bone meal, 1 part crab and lobster shell meal, and 1 part azomite, all stirred together in a big bucket. At transplant time, he adds 2 tablespoons of that blend directly into the planting hole before the pepper goes in. Now, if that sounds like too much to figure out, here's the simple version. Grab a good all-purpose organic fertilizer and some bone meal. Add 1 tablespoon of each to the planting hole. That's it. If the peppers are already in the ground, no problem. Just sprinkle 2 tablespoons of the fertilizer blend in a ring around the base of each plant, then water it in well. The water helps activate the breakdown process. From there, the soil's natural microbiology does the rest, slowly releasing nutrients over weeks. Here's the key part most people miss. This isn't a one-time thing. Fertilizing needs to happen every 2 weeks throughout the entire growing season, all the way until the first frost of the year. The goal is to always have some fertilizer in the process of breaking down and feeding the plants, so there's never a gap in nutrition. Why does this matter so much? Because peppers are actually heavy feeders for their size. They demand a lot from the soil. When you give them what they need consistently, the results are dramatic. In just 6 weeks on this feeding schedule, pepper plants that started out small were absolutely loaded with flowers and fruit, an almost unbelievable transformation. Step 2. Giving your peppers support. Once pepper plants start growing tall and the fruit starts piling on, wind becomes a real problem. Even a moderate breeze can snap branches, topple plants, and destroy weeks of hard work in minutes. Peppers can be planted close together, roughly 1 square foot per plant. When packed in like that, they tend to lean on each other a little and offer some group support. But the plants on the ends of rows, the ones most exposed to wind, are always the most vulnerable. And once the fruit weight starts pulling them down, the situation gets worse fast. The simplest fix for a single plant is 1 stake and a strip of soft vinyl tape. But when there are dozens of plants in a bed, that approach gets expensive and time-consuming very quickly. Enter the Florida weave, a method used by experienced gardeners and small farmers that lets one person stake an entire row of peppers in about 3 to 4 minutes. Here's how it works. 5-foot stakes are placed at the end of each row and at the midpoint of each row. Then a long piece of synthetic nylon twine is tied to one of the end stakes and woven back and forth between the plants. Behind one plant, in front of the next, behind the next, in front of the next, all the way down the row, around the middle stake and back. On the return trip, the weave goes the opposite direction, so every plant ends up held snugly on both sides. One critical detail: the twine must be synthetic. Natural fiber twines, like cotton, will expand when wet and contract when dry, which creates slack and eventually fails. Synthetic twine holds its tension no matter the weather. As the plants grow taller through the season, a new row of weaving is added every 6 to 12 inches higher up the stakes. By the end of the season, most plants will have needed 3 or 4 rounds of weaving. It's a small investment of time that keeps the whole bed tidy, upright, and productive. Step 3. The truth about pruning peppers: walk into any gardening forum or scroll through enough YouTube comments, and you'll find confident voices insisting that you should prune young pepper plants early in the season. The claim is that cutting them back encourages more branching, which leads to a bushier plant, which leads to more flowers and more fruit. It sounds logical, but here's what 20 years of experience actually shows. It's not necessary, and it comes with a cost. The gardener in today's video has never once pruned his pepper plants for bushing purposes, and they grow beautifully full and dense all on their own. More importantly, he's never set them back, because that's exactly what pruning does. It sets the plant back by 2 to 4 weeks while it recovers, regrows. During those weeks, the plant isn't flowering, it isn't fruiting, it's just healing. Meanwhile, unpruned plant right next to it is already blooming and setting fruit. When you're working with a growing season that has a hard end date, the first frost, losing 4 weeks, is not a small thing. So the advice here is simple: leave young pepper plants alone. Let them grow. They'll branch on their own, bush out on their own, reward you for it. There is, however, one situation where pruning makes complete sense: rejuvenation pruning in midsummer. In years where the heat and humidity bring disease onto the plants, cutting them back hard and then hitting them with strong fertilizers, both granular and water-soluble, can trigger an entirely new flush of growth. A plant that looked finished in July can come back swinging in August and carry production all the way to frost. That's a powerful tool to have in the back pocket, but it's reactive, not preemptive. Step 4. Busting the full sun myth. This one is big, and it explains why so many gardeners in warm climates hit a wall every single summer. Peppers are almost universally marketed as full sun vegetables. 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight per day, every gardening guide says it. But here's what those guides leave out: peppers are not native to open fields. They are native to the shaded understory of tropical and subtropical forests in Central and South America. In their natural habitat, peppers grow beneath forest canopies. They receive dappled, filtered light for much of the day. They were never designed to sit under a blazing, unobstructed sun for 8 or more hours, especially not the intense UV radiation that pounds gardens in the American South, the Southwest, and the West Coast. So why has the full sun advice persisted for so long? History, mostly. When peppers were first brought to North America, they were grown primarily in the Northeast, New England, the Great Lakes region, where summers are short and mild. Getting as much sun as possible during a brief growing window made perfect sense. In those cooler, cloudier climates, peppers handled full sun just fine. But as populations spread south and west, the same advice followed. Suddenly, pepper plants that were supposed to thrive were stalling out every July, wilting by midday, dropping flowers, and refusing to set fruit. The sun wasn't helping them, it was hurting them. In a perfect world, pepper plants would get mornings a month late from sunrise until about 11 in the morning, and then spend the rest of the day in the shade of a large tree. That's their sweet spot. But most backyard gardens don't offer that kind of natural shade. And depending on the time of year, too much shade early in the season can slow growth when the plants need momentum. The practical solution is shade cloth, specifically 40% shade cloth, installed overhead from roughly mid-June through mid-August, the window when the sun is at its most brutal. Outside of that window, the plants get full sun and grow quickly. During that window, they're protected from the intensity that would otherwise slow them down or stop them completely. For gardeners in short season or cool summer climates, the Pacific Northwest, Upper Midwest, New England, this step doesn't apply. Full sun is what those gardens need to push peppers through the season. But for anyone in a long, hot climate who watches their pepper plants stall every summer, shade cloth is often the missing piece. Step 5. Harvest aggressively and harvest often. Here's a mistake that costs gardeners a huge portion of their harvest every single year. They don't pick their peppers often enough. It feels counterintuitive. Isn't the goal to let the fruit develop fully? But that thinking misunderstands how a pepper plant works and what motivates it to keep producing. A pepper plant, like every plant, has one biological goal: make seeds, spread the species, survive. When fruit is allowed to sit on the plant and fully mature, the plant registers that mission as accomplished. It starts slowing down flower production because, from its perspective, it has done its job. Why work harder than necessary? But when fruit is harvested regularly, before it fully matures, before the plant has completed its cycle, something different happens. The plant interprets that loss as a threat. Something is taking its fruit before seeds can develop. The survival instinct kicks in. It responds by pushing out more flowers, more fruit, more attempts to reproduce. It doubles down. The more you pick, the more the plant produces. It's that straightforward. The fruit hang and pile up, and production slows. Harvest consistently and aggressively, and the plant keeps going full throttle all season long. This means walking through the garden every few days and pulling peppers that are ready. Even green ones. Even ones that could use another week. The act of harvesting is itself a form of communication with the plant, and it's telling it to keep working. Step 6. Water-soluble fertilizers are the secret weapon. Remember those granular organic fertilizers from step 1? They are absolutely essential. They build long-term soil health, feed the plant slowly and steadily, and provide a wide spectrum of nutrients, including trace minerals. But they have one limitation. They take time to break down. That's where water-soluble fertilizers come, and this is where production really takes off. Water-soluble fertilizers are already broken down. When they're mixed into water and applied to the soil, the plant can absorb them almost immediately. There's no waiting for microbiology to process them, no delay. The plant gets fed right now, and it puts those nutrients to work right now. The approach used in today's video combines the two methods into one powerful routine. Every 2 weeks, granular organics go down first, about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons per plant. Then, immediately after, water-soluble fertilizers are watered in over the top. This does two things at once. It activates the granular organics by getting them wet and starting the breakdown process, and it simultaneously delivers a fast-acting nutrient boost directly to the plant's root zone. The specific mix recommended is 1 teaspoon per gallon of a balanced 20-20-20 synthetic fertilizer, combined with 2 to 3 tablespoons per gallon of organic fish fertilizer. The synthetic fertilizer drives immediate uptake. The organic fish fertilizer fills in the micronutrient gaps that synthetics often miss. The result of combining both approaches, slow-release granulars every 2 weeks plus water-soluble supplementation, is a plant that is never without nutrition at any stage. It's never sitting there hungry, waiting for food to break down. It always has what it needs to flower, fruit, push production. Step 7. Drip irrigation is worth every penny. The final step is about efficiency, saving time, saving water, setting the garden up to practically run itself. Overhead watering, using a hose or a sprinkler that rains water down onto the plants from above, has two major problems. First, it spreads disease. Wet foliage is a breeding ground for fungal issues. Peppers are already susceptible enough to fungal problems without adding to the risk. Second, it wastes water. A significant portion of every overhead watering session evaporates before it ever reaches the roots. Drip irrigation solves both problems. The water goes directly to the soil at the base of the plant, delivered slowly so it soaks deep into the root zone rather than running off. Leaves stay dry. Water waste drops dramatically, and because the soil stays more consistently moist, rather than alternating between soaked and dry, the plants experience less stress overall. The added bonus is time. Once drip irrigation is set up, watering becomes almost automatic. And the system can even be paired with a fertilizer injector that distributes liquid fertilizers directly through the irrigation lines, eliminating the need to hand water with fertilizer solutions at all. Setting it up is easiest before planting, or when plants are small. For a garden already full of big plants, it's trickier, but still very much worth doing. The time and water savings over the course of a full growing season are significant. Bonus tip: peppers aren't annuals. Most gardeners treat peppers as annuals, one season, then done. Pull them at frost, compost them, start over next spring. But peppers are actually perennials. In their native tropical climate, they can live and produce for many years without ever dying back. The only reason they're treated as annuals in most of North America is because they can't survive frost outdoors. The solution? Dig them up before frost, bring them inside for the winter, and replant them in spring. A pepper plant that has been overwintered for even 1 year will come out of winter with a massive, established root system and a woody, developed trunk, and it will explode with growth and fruit production far earlier in the season than a brand new transplant could. The gardener featured in today's video has overwintered individual plants for as many as 6 years. A plant dug up and kept inside for 1 winter was already loaded with peppers before the season even got started. A jump on production that would be impossible with a fresh seedling. If there are a few especially productive plants in the garden this year, it's worth digging them up at season's end, keeping them alive through the winter in a sunny room, and getting a remarkable head start next year. That's 7 steps. 7 lessons pulled from decades of real gardening. Not theory, not recycled advice copied from the back of a seed packet, but actual hands-in-the-dirt experience. To recap, feed the soil at transplant and every 2 weeks after. Support the plants with stakes and Florida weave before the fruit weight causes damage. Leave young plants alone and skip the early pruning. Protect from intense summer sun with shade cloth in hot climates. Harvest aggressively and often to keep the plant producing. Layer granular and water-soluble fertilizers together for maximum nutrition. And invest in drip irrigation to save time, water, and the health of your plants. These aren't complicated ideas, but they're exactly the kind of specific, honest, experience-based knowledge that's getting harder and harder to find. The kind of knowledge this channel exists to preserve and share. Speaking of that, if you got value from this video and you haven't subscribed to Lost Natural Remedies yet, consider this. Somewhere right now, someone else who needs this information is never going to find it. Not because it doesn't exist, but because channels like this one don't get pushed by the algorithm the way flashy, superficial content does. Every person who subscribes helps this knowledge reach someone else who needs it. If you leave without subscribing, that's one fewer gardener who finds what you just found. It takes 2 seconds. The information stays free. The community grows stronger every time someone chooses real knowledge over noise. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, and share this with someone who's been struggling with their peppers. Until then, grow something. Eat something real.